Hello, I'm State Representative Craig Newbold from the 1st House District. Welcome to Ohio in Focus.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Ohio in Focus, a program that brings state government to you. I'm your host, Mike Ditto, and we have with us today State Representative Craig Newbold, who serves the 1st House District, which includes all of Columbiana County in Northeast Ohio. Thank you for joining us, Representative Newbold. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. I look forward to the time together.
Well, I think it'll be very invigorating for the folks back home in your district. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're here in your first term in the Ohio House. Tell us a little bit about your background, your family, what you do for a living, besides being a state legislator.
Well, I was born and raised in Columbiana County, Ohio, and spent my first 12 or 16 years there, and then I went off or 18 years, I guess, went off to school. I ended up, back in the late 60s, getting into the technology fields, which at that time colleges didn't really get into very much. So I went through a technical school initially and got into the field as a practitioner. I developed software, wrote code, and ended up kind of progressing through that career ladder. Ultimately ended up in the consulting industry, where we would work with other companies to help them develop software. Was blessed and I started my own firm in Seattle. I lived in Seattle, Washington at the time, and we were able to grow that firm to 1,200 employees and ended up in the, I guess, mid-90s, late 90s, deciding that I wanted to sell the business and come back to Ohio, and I was in a position where I could give back. Grew up in a blue-collar family. My dad worked at a Ohio filling station, service station. I got to call it a service station because he got very upset because service was very important to him, which was part of, I think, the background, the ethics, the values that were instilled in me, that you didn't just work to get a check. You worked to deliver something, to help people, to serve people. And it was incumbent on us as a family to do that better than other people, or at least try. I mean, you don't always succeed, but at least try. So when I came back to Ohio, that's kind of one of the things that ultimately led me into public office, was that interest in serving, because I felt that Columbiana County had so many assets, but yet, we're in Appalachia, and too many times I think we look at the glass as half empty, but yet I looked at it and I thought, boy, look, it's half full, but look at all these assets that if we could just focus on somehow and do some planning, do some organization, get people involved, that we would be able to help the county turn around. And so we've been working on that. I started with technology in there, started a nonprofit school where we take young people. Of course, everybody's younger than me now, seems like, so. But most of them are in their 20s. Typically would not be individuals that see college as an option. So this is something where they can come in as long as they're qualified, and we put them through a qualification process aptitude-wise to make sure that they have that kind of logical thinking process that is required to develop software. And then we put them through a very intense training program, and then they can go off to other areas, the state, the country. About half of our students now move off into other communities, and about half stay, and then we have another business that employs them to help develop software that we can compete against India.
That sounds like a story that you don't often hear about for someone who is in the State House or the State Senate. It's a very unique, very, very compelling story, actually, as I'm sure many people would agree. What made you want to come back to Columbiana County? You had left the state to follow a career path. What made you really want to come back?
Well, it's home. And it's having lived in Seattle, I use the salmon analogy a lot. That salmon, of course, are spawned in the local streams, and then they go off to the ocean and play with the big kids, and then they come home, and that was very much. There was just longing might be too strong a word, but my wife, who is not from the area. When I started talking about it, saying let's go back to Columbiana County, and I'd like to start a school and help young people, find a career option, and get them into to that industry. And we still laugh about it.
Well, I'm hopefully she is glad to be with you in Columbiana County.
Oh, yeah, very, very much.
Good.
Very much.
Well, now this is, as I mentioned earlier, your first term in the House, and it sounds like you had not run for office before. This was sort of a very new thing for you, and you were successful in 2010. You talked a little bit about what made you run for state representative, that your family and your father had instilled in you the need and the desire for service.
Right.
What's it been like for you in your first 2.5 months or so that you've been here in the State House?
Well, I'm back to being fed with the proverbial fire hose, or drinking out of it, I guess.
A lot going on, that's right.
There's a lot going on, and the pace that we're going through in the legislature is faster than I expected, which I like, because one of the concerns I had was the perception, at least, that government moves at a snail's pace. And I think our current governor has a lot to do with that pace, as he dictates the legislation in most cases, or many cases. So that's been the positive side of being able to come down here and hopefully make an impact quickly as a freshman. And there are a lot of us down here as freshmen, so I think that's, from my perspective, good for the state, because we have fresh people, fresh ideas, but we also have some seasoned politicians that can help us understand the history and the background of some of the issues that we encounter. So it's been very enjoyable.
We've got 99 members in the House and 33 members in the Senate, so a lot of different personalities, people of both parties serving their constituents back home. What are some of the issues facing the first House district in Columbiana County? Because, as I said, everything's different in every district, but what's happening back home with you?
Well, our county, Columbiana County, has gone through, unfortunately, a very negative metamorphosis almost. When I grew up as a kid, pottery and steel and coal were the primary industries in our area of the state. And they were just exploding. I mean, so many young people grew up, and if their father worked in the mill or the potteries, they just knew there was a job there waiting for them. Of course, we're down to one pottery now and one steel mill in the area. And that's just decimated the economy of the local area. Our population has gone down significantly in the county over the last 20 years. So it goes back to that, unfortunately, creating that half-empty glass feeling of what are we going to do?
And you've talked a lot about the legislature moving at a fast pace, and I believe that many people have been working on issues particularly centered around the economy and jobs. What are some of the issues that you've worked on since you've been here that have put the legislature in a fast pace dealing with jobs and the economy? Anything specific you wanted to talk about?
Well, I mean, Jobs Ohio, of course, is the first initiative that the governor put through the legislature or asked us to consider, and that was passed. And so that, I think, will provide opportunities. It'll, just by, I guess, the fact that we have 3 major cities, or 4 major cities now in the state, that a lot of the jobs will go there just because of economies of scale. But hopefully we'll get the multiplier effect and the ripple effect. Also, the governor has said he's very open to unique ideas. So one of the things I want to talk to him about is that ability to create. I think we could put several hundred people in a technology environment back in eastern Ohio, which we could then use in our area as a catalyst, hopefully to spawn related industries. And Marcellus Shale, I mean, we're one of the counties that the geologists think there's a lot of coal under for gas liquefaction. So if that does come through, once they start drilling and do their tests, that has the potential of just changing our county overnight.
You also serve on 3 different committees, really with a wide range of topics to cover, including the economy with the Economic and Small Business Development Committee. Tell us about that committee, if you would, what you're doing, and some of the other committees you serve on.
Well, the speaker asked me what committees I'd like to serve on, and luckily I was able to get on the 3 committees that I thought, based on my background, I could have the most impact on. So economic development, small business economic development is one of those, and we've been working on a number of issues there, trying to improve the environment in the state, regulatory reform, trying to eliminate a lot of the issues that impede business development, especially for small businesses and business growth. So that's been a lot of interesting activity there. Education, we've been going through looking for additional ways, like Teach for America and other opportunities where we can provide more options to families, so that, I believe in the right of the parent to make the choice about how their children are going to be educated. So we've, I think, made some great progress there. And the local government issue, that, of course, right now, given the budget shortfall, has been a very taxing committee because everybody's coming in knowing that they're going to get cut. So we've been trying to figure out, how do we make those cuts fairly and prioritize appropriately. So, we're still working through those processes.
Well, you've been here for about 2.5 months now. What do you enjoy the most about the job, and how have you been able to interact with your constituents, either here in Columbus or back home in the First House District?
Well, I think the constituents have been the part that I've enjoyed the most. Being able to talk. I'm in a position now where I can have influence, at least. Before, I could just complain and be frustrated with lack of progress, as far as the governmental impact at our local county level. But now I have an opportunity to try to influence that. So it's been exciting to me to be able to talk to them about what perspective do they have, where do they see as our strengths, what do they see as our weaknesses. We want to build around the strengths, try to shore up the weaknesses. So it's been great talking with people that agree with me, as well as people that don't agree with me, because there's always room to learn and grow.
Are there other issues legislatively that you think that you'll be working on, or that you've started working on, that you'll be introducing in the near future, or what other types of legislative initiatives do you see yourself working on moving forward?
Well, the whole vocational training area, which goes back to my background again, and looking at a lot of young people that I don't think are ready for college, or probably shouldn't be in college, at least at that point in time. So being able to develop training around jobs, looking at the various areas. If I take our county, technology and other industries that we can create jobs within the county. We should be creating training that's focused, so that we can take kids out of high school, individuals that may be displaced because of their businesses downsizing in the area, and train them specifically for some of these new jobs. Because if we don't have the people ready, those jobs aren't going to come. Those opportunities we may miss in the county. So we need to be prepared to take advantage of that. So we need to be doing things now. Infrastructure, same issue. Where are these people going to live if we bring them into the county? So we need to be looking at infrastructure issues and be prepared again, so we don't lose these jobs.
Well, people are going to see this show. They're going to see what you've been talking about and the things that you're working on. If constituents back home want to get a hold of you, how should they best contact you?
Well, they can contact me certainly here at you'll see the email address and telephone number on your screen, and my aide Steve Wilson. We try to get back to everybody, and I think we have gotten back to everybody. That's my commitment. It may not be as fast because we have been getting a lot of input now, given the issues that we're talking about in the state. So And I am also in the district. We've started town meetings and had our first one in East Liverpool, and we'll be having another one coming up in Salem and several other cities in the county. So we encourage people, watch the papers. We'll announce in there when we're going to, where we're going to be, and when we're going to be there. And please come, bring your ideas, and I want to listen versus talk, because that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth.
That's right. Representative, thank you so much for joining us.
My
It was a
pleasure.
pleasure for us as well. Again, you've been watching Ohio in Focus, the program that brings state government to you. Thank you again for joining us.